Virtual reality is an artificial environment which is experienced through many sensory stimuli, provided by a computer in which one's actions partially determine what happens in the environment. With this new environment, how will people and the media be influenced by it? Virtual reality has been a fun conversation for years, but now it's real and it continues to improve technologically with each passing year. So my question is, and my research is based on how it will change and influence the media.
This is just a normal basketball that we have then added a sticker to it so we can put our motion capture dots on it. So that then once you put it in to the software of motion capture, you can track this ball, or it can really be anything. It could even be a square inside the game. If you want to bowl, you'll just roll the ball and you can set up pins and it would roll them over inside the video game. For the future of VR, I think it should be the way we go, what route we go, because if you can experience these things that you've never got to see before, even just going to the ocean, something like that. For a kid that's never been, that's a really big deal. Getting to swim with sharks, dolphins, anything like that. Going to SeaWorld and just sitting there and seeing Shamu for the first time. If we could find a way to pull that off, it's endless, The kids would have something always to do, they can learn from it, it can be educational, it can be anything that the developers want it to be.
Acronym, the VR stands for virtual reality, and for most people I guess that would assume that it's an entertainment-based system, but of course, and a big reason why I believe I'm being interviewed today is because of the intellectual and training capacities that VR does propose. It's a new field and relatively it's interesting. We're charting new waters with it, and I think I look forward to seeing what we can do with it in the future for education.
Would VR destroy more than it creates? An example would be social media. Social media creates a chance to talk with friends and family, but at the same time, are we losing some intimacy?
Inside this OptiTrack box is what we call the dots for the motion capture suits. These are just a reflective surface that will show, I guess, where they're at on the suit that you would put on to then put yourself into a video game, an animation of some sort.
I guess. It's alright. We have tons of them. So, there's some on this. It's a little hard to get an idea of where they go through these things. And then as all these dots appear in front of these cameras, you can see, a rough outline.
Everything that I've experienced with VR is to do with education. Students being able to come to our lab and experience things that they've never got to do before. As in, we have this one experience where you can fly around in a city. It kind of resembles New York City. And students that's never got to see that before, they get to experience that. They can walk around, they can even fly in it. And I think it's just a great experience for the kids.
VR is new, and we have not been able to grasp the implications or the consequences of the new medium. How will this change communication as a whole?
I think in the future you're going to see VR applications in training in many different capacities. For example, I'm also a member of the Army National Guard Corps of Engineers in the state of Kentucky. And when I was off doing my training at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, they actually rigged most of little training facilities for most of the equipment we would operate, heavy equipment. You could actually operate a Caterpillar bulldozer, for example, using a VR setup where they had a seat that had vibrations rigged up into the seat to simulate the tractor, as well as two screens, one in front of you and one in the back, to simulate backing up and working a tractor.
The cost is a big factor. When it comes to being able to operate VR, industry standard, the price tag already is just and it's going to lag a little bit, it's probably around $1,500. And that's just starting out. So it just depends on the experience that you're going to be teaching or showing off and the time it takes to get there and the travel.
It'd be very interesting. I think the entire world over is holding its breath, waiting for that. Things like you would be describing, stereotypically described as Ready Player One, a more popular known mainstream movie that would feature a full-body submersion, virtual reality, or maybe even some people's more real fans of anime. enjoy Sword Art Online. But the prospects for that are also just invaluable to the fields of education. I imagine it'd be very useful, especially to people like law enforcement, which right now currently force law officers to undergo training where they must be tased to understand the true feeling and applications of using something like a taser on criminals. They understand, the idea is that if you understand how something feels, that you would use it more appropriately and wouldn't wield it irresponsibly. That would also may even look into the field of creating better legislation towards gun violence and crimes, and maybe even help benefit the laws. It might be the future of the Second Amendment.
As a kid growing up, my dream was, of course, be a star in sports, right? Any sport. I love soccer, basketball. Those are my two main favorites. If I could be on the pitch with the crowd surrounding me at the World Cup, at an NBA Finals game, getting to make that last shot before the buzzer sounds and let your team go crazy and everybody and storming the court and just experiencing that at that level, it would be the coolest thing ever.
There are many questions and research that needs to be conducted on the behalf of VR. VR has limitless possibilities, and what once was a science fiction story is now reality. The implications of VR on the media have already begun.